Welcome to Top TV, here with your hosts, Troy, Olga, and Pearl. Today's episode is Level Up with Pearl regarding human excellence. Our first topic for this first segment is communication, specifically communication with men, and the problems that men face giving and receiving communication. Hey Olga, hey Troy, how you guys doing today?
All right,
good.
thanks.
Doing good.
Right, thanks. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys excited about our topic today?
Yeah, I think it's something that we should discuss, maybe the audience can get something good out of it, on our points of view about how people communicate with each other.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited because I feel like this is a topic that our society as a whole has to address. Men not having the opportunity to express themselves because they have to be strong, they can portray this certain image, they have to be the hunters, and with a lot of that comes a mask and a wall that prevents them from expressing how they really feel because they may come off in a way that society doesn't deem acceptable.
Right. That's awesome. Okay, and in an extension to that, we will break down communication with men in three ways. First, men communicating with men communicating with women, and men communicating with children. And we will discuss the barriers that men face in those three areas and the resolutions that we feel will benefit men's communication in those areas, hopefully helping people watching this video alike. Okay. So to start, what do you guys feel are some communication barriers that men within themselves face communicating and interacting with others?
Well, I feel like the social constructions of our society does not allow a man to be vulnerable, does not allow men to express things that may come off as feminine, like their feelings. If I'm hurt, if I want to cry, if I feel like a situation is not masculine, but if it's me, that does not suit what society deems as being strong or as being part of the male perspective, then they're not able to express that. A couple classes that I took also expressed that the one thing that men feared the most in their adolescence was being called a fag. Why? Because it means that you're effeminate, that you're female. And a lot of times that has to do with sports, because for men, sports being football, hockey, soccer, masculine sports, as our society, American society, likes to identify with the masculine identity. And if you cannot knock a man down or kick his ass or catch a football, then you're looked at as a fag. If you can't make that goal, if you can't score that point, you call him a fag. And oftentimes coaches use those words, fag, bitch, feminine, in order to encourage the young males to be better. But more so, it does more damage than it does create successes and achievement in those fields of athleticism. And as well, a lot of young men have expressed that they bury their emotions because they want to be a part of the pack. And I noticed that men tend to be more a part of a pack, and they have a head wolf or dog, as we like to call them in our society, that kind of runs that. And those men have been emasculated in their own homes and communities and societies, and then they turn around and they take that out on the weaker or lesser man. And so I think American society has kind of obstructed what the identity of a man should look like if it does not fit a certain mold that our society has created for them, which tends to be more detrimental than beneficial at times.
Okay, the point of view you just stated is mostly coming from a female point of view, right?
No.
Your observation of what you see?
No, it has come from research and literature that I've picked up in some of my
Probably done by
writing
women.
classes, sociological classes. Am I saying that right?
Okay, the reason I said that is because most guys I know, they understand that point of view, but I don't think they look at it that way. I think most of the guys I know or hang out with, they know who they are. So they're not worried about what some societal thing is trying to put on them and whatnot. They do their own thing. At least the guys that I keep around my circle. I don't know too many guys that would even think of themselves as being weak or let society heap certain things on them. You know, they say and do the things they do because that's what they feel that they're going to do. You know, so I kind of see that point, but in life and as being a guy, I don't see many guys trying to live up to that image.
But I also think like we have to kind of go take a step back for a minute and identify what is being a man, what is being a male.
What it is to be a person.
Right, but what does that constitute? Does that mean, you know, you have to act in a certain aggressive manner in order to be identified as a man?
You don't have to.
Can you cry? Can you have feelings? Can you express your emotions? Are those things okay? In certain societies and in America, certain generations,
it's frowned upon.
It's frowned upon, right? Like in our generation today, I mean, if you're a homosexual male, are you less of a man than you are if you're a heterosexual male? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I got a homosexual cousin, and if you come up to him trying to talk that homosexual stuff, being disrespectful to him, he'll whoop you behind.
Excellent.
So is that not a man? I still consider him a man. He just has a different preference than I do.
But how many more men outside of his cousin or outside of his big uncle that accept him that he has to fight in everyday society? Even women, even people, even social constructions that want to suppress and oppress the way he expresses himself for who he is. And I feel like he probably is more so geared at expressing his individuality before even thinking about him being a male or being identified with any kind of social construct. But it all gets distorted when an outside opinion wants to put that on him, and then he has to deal with the consequences of their ignorance.
He don't have to take it. They can try to heap it on him, but if he don't receive it, he don't have to wear that.
And so, responding to Pearl's initial topic of discussion, it makes it hard at times, from what I've seen in my experience dealing with men or males, to communicate how they truly feel and how they truly express themselves from one man to another. Because I'm not sure if I can tell you, if I was a man, you know, a gay man as a heterosexual man, that, hey, this is who I am, but I still feel like I'm a man. Or from one man, from one heterosexual male to another heterosexual male, I have feelings, I have emotions. That hurt me, brother. And it not be received like, man, you a bitch, stop expressing that. You know you're supposed to get over that shit. The only bitches say that shit. The only females say that kind of stuff. Our society is very much constructed that way. Are we striving to change and grow? Yes, but not fast and soon enough.
Because I know some so-called heterosexual males that have that B in them too. And they heterosexual and they ways and action is straight up B. Straight up B. How they treat people, how they talk to, except when they're faced with a real dude that know themselves, then they gotta square up because they know they're talking to a real person. But any other people that accept the kind of stuff that these B dudes do, they'll do it. They'll do it and get away with it until a real brother come up and step up to them and they see what the real is. Not to say that B dude is not a man. He's still a man. He's still a man, but he got B ways. And men can point that out and see that.
Okay.
So when you approach a real dude, you know not to come off to that cat like that because he'll pull your card quick. So, and in male-to-male communication, that's known. Male dudes size each other up all the time. All the time. Walking down the street. I don't care if you're on the bus, on the freeway, looking over at the next dude. You sizing everybody up. Why males do that? I can't tell you why. But we do that. We do that.
You think that's taught?
No. I think that it's a genetic thing that guys just do. Just like when females get around each other and they may be in a group of girls talking, but let one of them leave the room. The other girls are going to start talking about her. Stuff like that. And that's, I don't see guys doing that much, but I've seen females do that quite a bit. Just because when say guys are in the same situation, another dude leaves, the conversation just goes on. Because whatever we gotta say about that dude, we'll say it to his face. We ain't gonna say it behind his back.
And I, with that particular statement, I beg to differ because I know men who talk about men all the time.
And that's those B dudes.
And not necessarily because they're B dudes, but because they feel like they cannot talk to that man because that man is too ignorant to listen. Or it's something within them, inside themselves, that they don't have the mental, emotional security within themselves to speak up for how they feel.
So why do you hang around a guy like that?
But because we're all human, one. And two, I don't think that means that they're a lesser of a man or a B dude. It's just they haven't learned how to have that inner confidence to speak up for how they feel, regardless to what the consequences are. And I think a lot of times, in terms of getting back to the first question, which was, what are some of the communication problems men have, is I think it is within self, just as it is for all genders. It's, if you don't have that self-confidence to not let the consequences of your words, appropriately stated, affect you, how will you have that inner strength to speak up for how you feel? It doesn't make you less than, it just makes you not ready for that moment.
And see, I think you made a good point. You made a very good point. It's bigger than the title male. It is authenticity, integrity. Being able to address being able to address being able to address people's opinion of you in an appropriate way, but to where you still maintain integrity and moral values for yourself, and knowing who you are in an authentic way. And our society does not encourage that, and that starts from the home. Because this is why I said it's generational, it's environmental, and it's based on ideologies and social construction. There's our parents, there's generations before our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents. We have a whole lineage that come down, and they each carry their own perceptions of identifying what it means to be a male and how a male should communicate. And from the very beginning, it started off as a very communal thing, but then it turned into a heterosexual hierarchical situation, because you had one man that wanted to dominate, and then they identified what that should look like, and then it passed down from generation to generation to generation. And then when you had all this, let's take it back even further into history, just how slavery manifests itself, oppression manifests itself. You know, you always had someone that was stronger, because yes, we are humans, but before being human, we're animals. And we just are animals with intellect. Now, how we use our intellect, how we develop our intellect, how society and humanity constructs itself, you know, even the form of respect and identifying yourself as a man or as a woman, these are all new social constructs to our society that's only been maybe a couple thousand years old. So we still have a long way to go on accepting the variables that come with identification. And based on generations and environmental situations, and hey, let's be real, survival of the fittest. If I'm stronger and I have a penis, then I'm the alpha male. And for majority of our society, that's been heterosexual on the surface. Mm-hmm. Not trying to take away from what's beneath the surface, but what's beneath the surface is now coming to the surface. And our society is being more accepting, but it's still kind of contradicting itself on what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So certain men hesitate to communicate with other males and say, this is who I am, and I'm okay and I'm comfortable in my skin. And hey, let's be honest, not all queer men are going to want to have sex with every heterosexual man out there. 99% don't give a fuck about them. They don't even think they're attractive. They want to be in their own lane, and they're happy with that. At the same time, like Troy said, they will turn around and kick your ass if they had to. Just because I'm a gay man doesn't mean I'm less, I'm any less hardcore or any less of a male than you are as a heterosexual male. But it's hard to communicate that when you have ignorance surrounding those concepts, and they don't want to accept it.
You just tell them.
You know, or you don't have to tell them. Why should I have to explain to you what my identity is and how I represent myself and what's okay with me, because it's not okay with you? Fuck you.
I agree.
You know, and like you said, bro, if you're not willing to accept that, there's going to be consequences, but you know what? I don't even have to accept those consequences. Hey, buddy, you may have to accept those consequences, because when I kick your ass for you trying to judge me and put me in this box or this category because it fits your opinion and your way of living and thinking, hey, boo, get ready to deal with it.
Right.
Because I'm five fabulous, and I'm still going to kick your ass.
So far you guys are saying like some of the setbacks with men being able to communicate clearly and effectively are social constructions to society,
Yes.
in society, not having good home teachings, upbringings, I guess, in terms of communication.
To a certain extent, yes.
Ego.
Yes.
Yep. Surroundings, the people you hang around, you tend to pick up some traits from the people that you hang around. So if you got low class B brothers around you, of course you're gonna pick up their traits. But when you got real dudes around you that live by codes and have a strict meaning on, they respect themselves and they respect the people around them, you pick up those traits too.
Okay. And then in addition to that, then so lack of self-knowing
Yep.
who you
Knowledge
are,
of
right?
self.
Knowledge of self. Thank you.
Yes. Knowledge of self.
And there was one more that was a good point, but it's slipped my mind.
Just being respectful. Being respectful to yourself and the people that you keep under you. Those are,
Right.
to me, those are the keys to communication all the way around, whether male, female, whatever. As long as you got the respect for yourself and you won't do something to someone that you don't want done to you, and you guys, even when y'all don't disagree, y'all don't get down in the gutter as far as calling each other names or calling each other out their names, y'all can always communicate then.
Right.
You can always communicate
And
then.
brother, I think you made a very good point, because respect is a 19th century concept. Because there was no respect. And so developing the understanding of what respect means, how to identify respect, how to be respectful in the sense of minding your own, acceptance and understanding, and acknowledging your ignorance and looking for the understanding of what it means to be respectful in the sense of you have your viewpoint, you have your ideology, you have your way of living, I have mine, and we can live in the same world
without stepping on each other's
without
toes.
stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah.
That's still a very new concept that we have to master and refine and refine
I
and refine.
agree.
It's going to constantly be developing and recreated and reestablished and re-identified and rerouted into values of human nature. Because again, I have to reiterate, we are animals by nature that are constantly evolving. And so until we accept that we can be all things,
Yep.
we can be masculine, we can be feminine, we can be gay, we can be straight. You know, we can wear wigs, we can have penises, we can, however we choose to identify ourselves as the male, that should be and eventually will manifest itself as a form of respect in each generation in its own way as we go. But there will always be that ignorance that still underlies our society, because there's going to be stubbornness, there's going to be refusals, there's going to be opinions, there's going to be people, males, always putting their opinion in someone else's life, in someone else's lane. And until we can learn to separate respect, ignorance and ego and prejudice and lack of understanding and self-preservation, we're going to have that conflict. And we're going to have to keep, and so it makes it hard to communicate when you have a person that's so resistant, because they think, oh my God, you're going to put it on me. Oh my God, you're going to put it on my kids. Oh my God, if we teach, you know, certain things in schools or in environments, because we're so impressionable as human beings, that we're going to infect our society as a whole. And I can't have my boys receiving that kind of information, because they're going to be quote unquote fags and bees.
You don't feel their mind is strong enough.
Exactly.
So then that was the other point. Then was generational teachings. We need to change or relearn what we've learned, because what was taught back then is no longer the same moving forward in modern society.
Absolutely.
Or may not relearn, realign it a little bit more to where it fits this modern time, because these times right now, people can do just with this whole internet thing, your mind can go just about anywhere you want it to go, and you shouldn't be afraid or ashamed to go to those places if that's where you feel.
Absolutely.
You know, you shouldn't be afraid or ashamed to do that.
So So what about validation? How do you guys feel about that? Like, is
Who's a validation?
well, do you feel that men's one reason why there's a lack of communication, proper communication with men, at least feeling able to freely express themselves, is because of lack of validation. Lack of, it's okay that you are who you are, it's okay that you cry, it's okay that you feel, it's okay that you want to share how you feel, it's okay that you have thought and question, it's okay that you're not sure, it's okay that you want to express. You know, I feel like in my experiences speaking with men, male friends, relationships, doing some research, that was something that did come up, which was a lack of being validated. It's one thing in particular, and we'll trickle down to this, was in a relationship, a lot of women, and of course it's society-based, expect a man to be a certain way. Expect a man to be a manly man without stating how they feel towards their significant other. And if you do in a way that seems a little too expressive, you come off emotional and soft. And there is where that lack of validation comes in. Some women do not feel like a man should be able to, or even
That's her preference.
even maybe a father of the man, or uncle of the man, or a mother of the man. They feel like you should not feel validated to express yourself because that's weak.
See, but what you're talking about, Pearl, is someone else's validation of you, not your own validation. You started off the question saying, do guys feel that they need to be validated? But when you put it to where someone else's view of you, whether it's your homeboys, your girl, your wife, whoever, your mom, dad, whoever, you're going by what their validation of you is. Then that's why I asked the question, whose validation are you talking about? Now, if it's someone that you have under you all the time, your wife, girlfriend, whatever, of course you want a certain validation from that person. And that person picked you for whatever characteristics that you have. So that's why I said it's that woman's choice. And if she want a manly man, that's the kind of guy she gonna go after. If she like pretty boys or athletes or whatever, that's the kind of person she gonna go to.
But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean you're less of a manly man if you express to your woman who expects you to be a manly man how you feel. And in my opinion, a manly man is someone who expresses how he feels. A B-boy, is that what you call him, right?
Yeah.
Or a grown-ass boy is someone who tries to come off macho and tries to act like the manly man, but doesn't really tell me what he feels, what he wants, and what he needs from me. Oh, man, oh, it's cool. I ain't worried about that. It's all right. Well, really, inside, you're like, damn, I wish Pearl was like maybe more considerate when she said that to me. And I need you to tell me, Pearl, I wish you were more considerate when you said that to me. To me, that's what a man does. That's what a manly man does. That's not to have this front. But I expect you to know. Nah, I don't have time for that.
Yeah. Why would you?
I don't have time for that. And then also it's like, I feel, in reciprocation, then I know because you expressed to me how you felt and you communicated it clearly, I am going to validate you by saying, you know what? Thank you for telling me how you feel. I apologize that I hurt your feelings. I'm going to change that.
That's what they for.
And so I feel like you're right. To answer your question, about validation towards males, yes, I feel like men do need to be validated. Yes, within themselves, brother, but in the exterior, because we're humans.
Right, but isn't that a problem, though? Isn't that a problem that we don't do that?
Yes, to a certain extent, you have to find, you build your own form of validation, but it has to start somewhere. It starts from the roots of your foundation. It starts from your father and your mother saying, yes, this is okay. Yeah, it starts from your village. Yes, this is okay. It's okay to cook. It's okay to do this. And you're still just as manly as you would be if you were hunting versus gathering. All of that is okay. Because guess what? We have some amazing cooks in this world. A lot of the men that dominate in the cooking, a lot of people that dominate in the cooking industry are men.
Right.
They're the ones that's teaching the world how to cook meat, how to cook vegetables. Does that make you less of a man? No. But when in our homes and in our social constructions, especially in our society, it's a woman's job to cook and clean in the household. Why is that? Because there's a stupid construction that says this is a woman's job, this is a man's job. And none of that existed before what we talked about, sex before dawn. Everything was communal. Until some greedy folks that were physically able to intimidate others. That's what it comes down to as well. Strength, bronze, over the lesser. Okay? And when you can intimidate others with your strength, with your mind, with your money, with your resources, then other people tend to submit. So you get to create the idea of what should be and what shouldn't be. And that's what our society is built on, let's be honest. And so you create these social constructions which identify what a man's supposed to look like and what category they fit in, what a woman's supposed to look like, what category they fit in, what a gay person's supposed to look like, what category they fit in, what children's supposed to look like, what category they fit in. And then you sit up here and you disrupt this whole communal atmosphere that just goes, we can all help each other with our strengths. And let's apply that to what makes us whole as human beings, and we can validate each other, and then we turn around and validate ourselves. We know what our skills are, we know what our abilities are, but it gets distorted as we get older and older and older because society says, no, you're not supposed to do that because you're a man. You're not supposed to do that because you have a penis. You're not supposed to do that because you have muscles and you're supposed to be lifting logs instead of cooking in the kitchen. That is not fair to the construction of a person's identity. And then it gets categorized by being a male or being a female or being this or being that. And then we break down a person's makeup and then they're totally confused. So yes, they're looking for outside validation because they don't know who they are inside anymore because they have been forced and repeatedly beat over the head with what that social construction is supposed to look like because of a person that dominates. Because they bought the system with their strength, with intimidation, with money, with all this extra bullshit that's irrelevant to making the community whole, to making yourself whole as an individual. That's how I feel. And so it's like, identify yourself as a man, however you feel like you should identify yourself. Be able to communicate, express yourself the way you want to communicate because that's what makes you whole. That's what makes you happy.
Valid, yeah.
It's still valid. It's still worth something.
Yeah.
And when we shut each other out that way, it does make it hard for males to communicate and really be their authentic selves because they don't know what that looks like. I remember watching, and I know this is fictional, but watching an episode of, it's on Netflix right now, folks, if you want to check it out, Family Reunion. There's an episode where the father is an ex-NFL player, and his youngest son loves football, but he doesn't know that because he likes to bake cookies in the kitchen and he likes to play in the jazz band and he took some ballet classes. And so he was always encouraging his eldest son to go into football, and his eldest son wasn't really interested in football even though he was good at it, but his youngest son heard that his father talking about his eldest son going into football, so he's like, I like football too, Dad. And the dad was like, okay, brushed him off. And so as the son was going upstairs, the father was talking to his friend and was like, oh, well, my youngest son, he likes to make cookies and, he's not a football kind of a son. And that's okay. This young man decided to take on football to impress his dad, but he stopped baking. He stopped playing the saxophone. He actually threw it in the trash. And he told his father that, well, it's a real man I'm a real man when I play football. And so while he was excellent on the football field because he took him out for practice, and he did one of his ballet moves and scored a touchdown, and the boys were laughing at him, the coach was like, asked the boy where he learned that move from. And he said, well, it's from my ballet class. And all the boys started laughing, ha, 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 ha. Oh, he takes ballet. And the coach was like, all you guys need to take ballet because that was a pretty damn good move and it scored a touchdown. What happened to the young man, even though he had all these skills that he didn't know were valid in a masculine environment, quote unquote, he started to shut himself down with his other skills because he wanted to prove his masculinity to his father. And his father found his trumpet in the trash and started to see how angry his son became. Because his masculinity, so they thought it was, turned into rage. And now he was like, argh! angry, and he had to express himself in all these quote-unquote masculine ways because he wanted to prove himself to his father, and it wasn't really who he truly was. Even though he enjoyed playing football, it was the image he had to maintain for his father, and it started to actually work against him instead of for him, because he was no longer being himself. And so his father asked his son, well, why are you doing this? He said, well, because this is what men do. I overheard you saying that about me. And so his father had to sit back and think about that. He's like, well, you know, I'm proud of you, how you are. He's like, but no, you're not, Dad, because you don't listen to me. You don't listen to the things that validate me.
Right.
You don't listen to me cooking in the kitchen. You don't listen to me with my ballet classes. You don't listen to me playing my trumpet. It does not validate
Troy, because
me.
that's how
I
it
know,
starts.
but
You're
you're gonna
absolutely
look.
right.
You're gonna look for some type when you're a kid. You're gonna look for some type of validation from your parents.
Point being, though, that's where it starts. Your
Yeah.
foundation, your home, and the social constructions, and with the father. And this is what I'm saying is generational, because what the father didn't understand was that's who he was naturally, and he got that mentality from his father, but it matched his natural identity. When his son came in, that was a part of his identity, but it wasn't his whole identity. And the same skills that society would deem as feminine were the skills that got him to be successful as a football player in the first place.
That's what I want to talk about.
But when he compromised himself, the young man started to hate himself because he was trying to prove and please his father's definition of what it meant to be a man.
Yep. And that's a good point that you make. I remember my mom showing all of us.
I love a man that can cook, by the way. Excuse me, bro.
My mom taught all of her boys, you need to learn how to sew. You need to learn how to cook. You need to learn how to clean and do all these things, because there's going to be times in your life there is not going to be females around. So you need to learn how to do these things. She wasn't teaching us those things because they were so-called some feminine things. She was like, these are things you're going to need to know how to do in case there's nobody around for you to do those, to help you do those things.
Independence,
So
survival, self-sufficiency.
So I don't think she looked at it like from the boy's point of view, just because he liked to cook and play the sax and all that stuff, and his father saying that was more of his father's ignorance than that kid's.
But he wasn't looking at it from his point of view. He was looking at it from his father's point of view, because he was okay with himself until his father didn't validate him.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And his father should have taught him a lesson that I don't have to think like my father all the time. I see my father's point of view. I respect my father's point of view, but that's not me. Right. So you got to have that communication or understanding with your father. Yeah, I know how you grew up, how you quote unquote think what is manly, what is not manly, but this is how I get down, Pops. And when I grow up, I'm gonna be just as a man as you are when I grow up. So,
but the young man in this series,
it's a scripted
he plays,
series,
but it's very valid to real life. But he's at an impressionable age, between like 8 to 12 years old, to where you're soaking up, and even younger than that, five and up. But in this particular series, he's soaking up his father's advice, his father's behaviors. He looks up to him, so that's his validation is his father's validation. Yep. You know, and so it's hard for young men to even express themselves that way. And when it starts to when those ideologies imprint themselves in the mind of a young man at such a tender age, they grow up with that social construction, and that becomes a part of their identity. And that's why it's a delicate balance between being able to be everything. Just like we say, oh, I'm every woman, then you can be every man, and whatever that looks like. And the irony of all this is, to me, as much as we want to categorize what a man should look like, what a female should look like, what a child should look like, how all those constructions should be represented, some of the most dominant forces in the world that service feminine ideologies are men. I mean, everyone's buying themselves a pair of Louboutins. That's a man. Gucci, Prada, Versace. Those are male designers that started all of that, to be honest.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like our makeup in society is backwards. It's very, very warped. It's very
That's
warped.
why I say you can't buy into it. Once you buy into what society try to heap onto you, you halfway lost already. You halfway lost already. Because you have a certain path in your life that is your journey. It's nobody else's journey. So whatever outside noise coming to the situation, yeah, you're gonna hear it, you're gonna feel a type of way about it, but that shouldn't stop you from going on your journey. It shouldn't. And then the father in that show you were talking about, I'm quite sure by the time that episode was over, that father realized that my son shouldn't have to be validated like that. That his views and his hobbies and activities are just as valid as what anybody else was doing. I'm quite sure that happened in that episode.
You're absolutely right.
That's why I said it was the father's, I won't say warped point of view, but his blind spot. It was a blind spot for him because he grew up a certain way. Yeah. So naturally, you can't think that your son gonna grow up the same way. So I'm glad the son felt a certain way to be like, I want to be validated by my dad, but then the dad finding out, no son, you're good just the way you are, dude. You don't have to fit into the same boxes I fit into. You validate yourself, and I'll have your back. Whatever you validate on yourself, I got you, because I want you to be the man that you want to be, whatever that is.
Accurate. That's the way it
whatever
play
that
out.
is.
That's the way it play out.
So you can sew, jump rope, double dutch with the girls, or whatever. I don't care what you do. Just as long as you happy, you ain't messing on other people, and you don't let other people mess on you. You stand on your square on how you feel about stuff. I got your back. I got your back. Even if some of the stuff I don't personally agree with, I got your back, because I want you to be the man you're supposed to grow up to be.
And I think
Can't worry about society.
in order, as well, to answer your question about the lack of communication, I think males tend to attack each other versus listening and absorbing that perspective from another male, because it affects their ego. And from my experience talking to certain males, it goes back to sexuality. To be called a fag means you're being penetrated versus doing the penetration. So now
you're put in a womanly position.
You're put in a womanly position.
Because women receive.
Women receive.
Men are outies, women are innies.
Exactly. And for me to, not for me, but for a man to be on the receiving end means he's more feminine. So I don't want to be identified with anything like the word fag, meaning that I'm going to be on the receiving end. And so when you attack another male with those kind of verbs and adjectives and nouns and things like that, it intimidates that man. It intimidates that man, and so he, to a certain extent, has to be masculine, or because he feels emasculated, and he has to front that way, when that's not really who he is. Yeah. Now, at the same time, I will say this, brother, and you call me on something. Mm-hmm. For certain men to feel that way, I've noticed some of those same men are on the football field in some tight-ass tights, in what could be deemed as a feminine position when they're bending over, hawking a ball between their legs.
It's the game.
I'm kind of confused on how we can.
Or how guys pat each other on the butt.
Yes.
I never like that.
You're in the locker room and your butt ass naked and you're whipping each other with wet towels and things like that.
That's just hoisting around.
Or when you're hazing each other, smacking each other in the asses and sodomizing each other as a way of initiation.
Not in no football game, nobody's doing that.
Not in football games, but in fraternities and things like that, as a form of initiation. I'm kind of confused on.
You better reevaluate if that's the kind of group you want to be involved with, and those are your choices.
And to me, that's a form of brutality and emasculation, but
it's an initiation.
It's supposedly okay. Is that your point?
Right.
And
it's not okay.
No, right.
So I can't call you a fag, but I can slap you on your butt naked ass. I shouldn't call you gay or call you a bitch because you're a man with a penis, but I can be putting you in a doggy style position when I talk about. See what I'm saying now? It's only acceptable when it looks a certain way to a certain group based on money.
You're right. It's acceptable. It's acceptable. Certain things
I'm
are
confused.
acceptable.
I'm confused.
Circumstance.
Yeah.
I'm confused. And I understand why the tights came in. I understand that whole
It's the
background about
uniform.
of athleticism
Get
because
paid to wear this.
and plus it's, when it's tighter fitting, it doesn't get caught on things. It's,
They
it's
can't
better
grab
when you
you.
flow and you run. I
Yeah.
get all that. Well, look at the way that could be perceived. The same
Yeah.
way the word
Yeah.
bad could be perceived, or some other form of emasculation or emasculating another male that society doesn't accept.
You
That's
going
kinda
there?
that,
You going
like you
there?
said, it's a form of
You
ignorance.
going there?
I am.
But
I am.
That is a form of ignorance to not really understand those meanings and those words, and even like the situation with football, like to just see something like that and make those statements. That is a form of ignorance without properly.
yeah.
Right. And so you guys kind of already touched on male to male communication and kid to male to children communication. What about men to women communication?
Respect again, I say.
Really?
But where are the problems?
If you're like in a relationship with someone, hopefully you guys are friends. That way you can break down a lot of walls then. You guys aren't coming at each other just as boyfriend and girlfriend. You guys are friends. You guys know each other. You know where certain people's buttons are or whatever, and you try not to go there because I know my guy, my girl don't like that. So you just don't go there and you don't do that. But communication between females and males, I think respect is still number one on my list there. Honesty, and knowing that honesty is coming from a area of love, not from an area of trying to antagonize the other person. It's coming from a point of love. I'm not saying this to like hurt you. I really want to know why when X, Y, and Z happens, you react this way. Or why when X, Y, and Z happens, that's why when I see certain things as far as couples that I know and how they interact with each other, I'm like, to the outside world, it may look like these people are at each other's throats, but I know the history behind these two people and how long they've been together and how they get down as far as their communication. It may look weird to me from the outside, but in the inside, it works perfect for them. And I don't know. Each individual case is different, whether it's a girlfriend, wife, sister, mother, aunt, the way you friend, the way you interact with them. Certain rules are set down at the foundation and built upon. And as long as everyone's not trying to actually hurt the other person, I don't see why anything can't be said. Because I'm not saying this to you to hurt you. I'm saying this to you because I really want to know why this makes you smile, why this makes you cry. I really want to know so I can be a better friend, husband, uncle, whatever to you. I just want to know.
Okay. Do you think that it's some things that we as women do or don't do towards men that warrant a lack of proper communication from men?
Yep, you put too much emotion in stuff. Y'all speak from emotion way too much instead of the logical solution sometimes to where we don't even have to bring emotions into this situation. A lot of women, not all women, but a lot of women, when that clock is on them, that semi-pressure is on them, they go to their safe bag, and their safe bag is to come from an emotional point of view, whether that emotion is anger or trying to play the victim or all these different hats you can wear when you're coming from that emotional stage. And the guys got to understand that and see it for what it is. It was like, all right, I can do a better approach to this. I don't have to come wagging my finger at her or being overly caring to her or something like that. Just honestly, just tell me how you feel and what can we do to fix whatever situation, good or bad. That's what I say.
For me, I think it goes back again to validations, roots, upbringing, and understanding, yes, the nature of a person. I feel like there's a compatible personality for each male and female, but we're so impulsive as human beings that we don't take enough time to explore that, because for every emotional woman, there's an emotional man that complements that and that will agree with their emotions because they understand that passion. Because on the flip side, there's some women that's not emotional enough for certain men that feel like they're too masculine. And, for me, I'm more of a masculine woman, but I always give that man that leeway because I understand that nature. I understand the drive, especially for the kind of men that I look for. I don't necessarily look for super emotional men, but I get emotional if that man doesn't respect what we're trying to build, our foundation, what we're trying to grow, doesn't commit to our commitments. Because now, all I need you to do is follow through or make that commitment, or tell me you can't make that commitment, and I'm more than willing and happy to adjust that because I understand life comes up, things comes up, but I need a certain level of consistency in order for me to continue to respect you. And vice versa. You need me to have a certain level of understanding in order for you to feel free enough to communicate with me when you do have those shortcomings. And oftentimes,
nobody's perfect.
The kind of men that I choose restrain themselves from that communication, but then their behaviors show that they're falling short. And so I get frustrated, and then it comes off in an emotional manner because I've been patient for so long. I've been understanding. I've been unemotional. I haven't been reactive. I've been responsive. And it doesn't get appreciated or reciprocated, but I'm supposed to be understanding when they can't communicate at all or when they don't communicate. And so for me, I feel like as humans we get so impulsive with the first sign of attraction or with the first emotional impulse or any kind of stimulative impulse that we have, and we don't take the time to know each other, so then we have this imbalance that comes up, and then it's like, you're too emotional as a female, you're not emotional enough as a male. We weren't compatible emotionally or logically or unemotionally or constructively or whatever the case may be in the first place, and we just didn't give each other enough time, so it comes off in an unbalanced manner, but we didn't take the time to invest in each other and to slow down to know all of that. And then there's some of us that just give time and patience and patience. And so for me, it goes back to males and females, whether it's friends, lovers, significant others, brothers, sisters, friends, knowing themselves and understanding what their needs are, and then finding people and the opposite sex that are compatible to them and their natures and whatever it is they want. And then it also comes down to acceptance for me. There's certain people that are going to be who they are, male or female, regardless. And we need to accept that. Accept the things you can change the things that you can't accept. If that doesn't work for your whole makeup and your whole foundation, don't deal with it. And that's okay. And when we really get to that place of understanding with each other, I think we can love each other more as males and females, because then we can turn around and validate each other, but then we can turn around and say, well, this works for me. This doesn't work for me. And we need to turn around and accept that on both sides, because a lot of females force and push their ideas and their wants and their needs down a male's throat, but then men also resist, and they pull back and they disappear, and they don't speak up and say, wait, whoa, stop, this is what I need, this is how I need to receive it. And males and females doing the same thing. We nag and we take and we give and we take back, and we don't follow through, and we have all these shortcomings because we haven't completely learned ourselves. We dive into each other before we dive into ourselves. And then we sit up here and go, you're too emotional as a female. You're not emotional enough as a male. It's everything, all of the above and everything in between. And I think we create all these shortcomings in our nature as male and female and human beings in the sense of our existence, because we don't take the time to just invest. And excuse me for sounding repetitive, but that's how simple it is. But we make it so complicated because we put all these roadblocks in our way, these impulses, these envies, these jealousies, all these unnecessary obstacles, because we haven't taken the time to learn each other. So yes, sis, we can't validate each other because we haven't validated ourselves. We can't communicate effectively with each other because we don't know how to communicate, period. We can't coexist with each other because you should look like this as a female, and and you should look like this as a male, and you should be doing this as a female, and you should be doing this as a male, instead of saying, what is your strengths as a person that you are that I want in my life? And how does that complement me? How does your strength complement my weakness? Or how does your strengths complement my strengths? How does my strengths complement your strengths? And how does my compliment your weaknesses, and then we just work together and build and build and build, and feel secure and okay enough to communicate with each other. Instead of trying to one person dominate each other as a male, because I'm masculine, I'm stronger than you, or a female kind of dominate because, our mouth is our strength. That's our weapon. And a man's strength is his physical strength over a woman to a certain extent. And we use that against each other instead of using that to compliment each other. I think that's what gets on our way.
I do not want to be in a
females.
situation with females that I have to argue with all the time. If I got to argue with you all the time, I don't really, I'm cool with that. I'm not big on that kind of stuff. I'm more on, let's deal with the situation as it is. We can agree or we can disagree and respect each other's point of view. But if we gotta, every time we doing something, we gotta bump heads every time, we ain't really going nowhere. We're like treading water. We're not actually progressing into something. I just don't have time for that. I'm too old to have time for that, put it that way.
Right.
That's something you do in your 20s and teens to me. That's college stuff. After you reach a certain age, a certain light bulb should go off in your head to know that I know where I'm going right now in my life. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do what I can to get there. And anybody that's complimentary to that thing can ride with me. Right. If you're not complimentary to that thing and all you're doing is putting an anchor around my neck and I got to drag you along, I don't see the fun in that. And I don't care if that's wife, girlfriend, I don't even care if it's parents or best friends. I don't think any of those people should be an anchor around your neck to get you to where you need to be.
Right.
None of those people should do that. So if they compliment you well and you guys work good together, constructive criticism to where it's not trying to break the person down but trying to help them see certain flaws in themselves and they should do the same for you, that's respected to me.
And brother, you had a good point about, I think our society is the only society, I shouldn't say the only society, but that I'm aware of, that does not support constructive criticism. We are not encouraged in our society to be transparent and to live in the voices of integrity. We are not encouraged to speak our minds. We are encouraged to hide shit. We are encouraged to front our emotions. We are encouraged to say things are okay when they're not okay. So what does that do? Eventually you start lying to yourself. You start accepting things that's not, that would never be acceptable to you. As children, they in our society are so straightforward and transparent about how they feel, but as you become, go into your adolescence and as you become adults, I'm pretty sure majority of the audience can agree with me, you start to lie to yourself. You start to sell yourself wolf tickets. You start to sell yourself tell yourself these untruths. And how do I know this? Because we have filters now. Because we have Photoshop. Because we sit up here and we go to school and we try to identify with the majority of the group, the cool kids, instead of just being okay with who we are, because we don't want to be bullied. We don't want to be antagonized. And then that manifests itself in relationships. And coming from home, your parents want you to look a certain way. You have to, because you're a reflection of them. And yep. So when you get into a relationship, now you have all these expectations of that person that you want them to be for you, when you haven't even been your authentic self for yourself.
I got a question for you. So what about when you do have good examples at home, or as far as what a healthy relationship looks like, and you know what a healthy relationship look like, and say your parents been married for 50 years or whatever, and they may have their ups and downs, but you're seeing how they battle through it, and then you get in relationships, you want the same thing for yourself.
But that's a layered question that you're asking me, okay. Because like you just said, ups and downs. Now, were those ups and downs authentic, or did they just make it through the wave? And was their background based on just sticking it out and sticking together?
Probably.
Because for a long time in our society, through the 50s and on up, you didn't get a divorce.
Yep.
Whether your husband was cheating on you or not,
yeah.
And it was supposed to be a woman's place to be in the house, and a man could do whatever he wanted to do because he had a penis. No, and he brought home the bacon. No, and all that was set up for the male ego and hierarchical benefits, not for the home as a whole. And so now generation carries that on. I know in our background growing up, a woman was supposed to be seen and not heard.
Mm-hmm.
She was supposed to know her place. Never heard that about a male. A male could do whatever he wanted, however he wanted to do that. Did that make one or more or less or more? I mean, one more or less successful than the other? Not necessarily, and then necessarily. You know, so I think it all depends on the background and we're all trying to put, and that's my point, brother. We're all trying to put each other in some kind of box because we have these expectations from one or the other without thoroughly knowing ourselves. At the same time, however, what I will say is this, and this is my personal experience. There's been times where you have identified your roles in a relationship because you feel that's complementary and that's who you're compatible with, but one side or the other has not lived up to that expectation or to the foundation you try to create, and so it totally destroys what you were trying to build in the first place. And then that creates a lack of communication and building and growth between male and female, because if your role as a man is supposed to look like this and I accept it because I identify myself as a female and you identify yourself as a male, and we chose these roles that complement our identities, but then we don't mesh them together, then we messing up the whole thing for us as a couple, as a foundation. And that trickles down from generation to generation as well. Because if you have identified that you want to be the bread winner, or even the house husband, play that role.
My wife make more than me. I wouldn't care if my wife made more than me.
But don't hold it over your head.
Yeah.
And don't say that you're less of a man because I make more money than you. And don't say you're more of a man because you make more money than me. Or you're the breadwinner, or you're supposed to be the hunter and I'm supposed to be the gatherer. It's not even about that. We're supposed to be doing this together. And if we can't complement each other as people and the roles we identify that's supposed to complement our household, then we lose it all together. And of course, communication being broken.
As long as we get it together, I don't care if I have $5 million and she got $250,000. It's all in the same pot as far as I'm concerned.
Just don't
if
eat
I
the
ride
house
with
down.
you,
No, I'm saying.
if I ride with you, it's all in the same pot.
Absolutely.
So how do you guys, excuse me, how do you guys feel, excuse me, how do you guys feel about lack of self-happiness being a part of poor communication?
You want to go?
No, you go.
Okay. That's some insight you got to work on your own.
But is that valid though? Is that one
Yeah,
of
it's
the reasons
valid.
why
It's valid.
Why, what's this?
why men may not be able to properly communicate because they're not happy within themselves?
Yeah, and I can put that on either gender. And I say don't get in a relationship if you ain't got at least 60 to 70% of your shit together. Because if not, you're gonna be bringing all kind of baggage into something. Somebody may be put together pretty good. You know, they got 80 to 85% of their stuff together. Yeah, they got about 15, 20% they need to work on, but they got 85% put together. And you come with your BS 40%, messing up their 85. Even when they trying to drop, male or female, whoever is on either side, even when that person is trying to drop jewels on you on how to get up to where I am, you don't have to be the same mind frame as me or anything like that, but as long as we can communicate on a certain level, you know, I'm like, babe, every time I seem to talk about this, you go ballistic about this. And I explained to her, this is why I'm coming at you this way. This is why I bring X, Y, and Z up. You know, and I don't think you shouldn't have to settle for somebody that's not really trying to work on themselves, male or female. If you know you ain't got your stuff together, dude, go somewhere, find out who the heck you are, and then you can bring that. And you gotta have love for yourself. People who say that don't have a lot of love for themselves, what the hell are you bringing to the relationship then? If you ain't got love for yourself. Because I don't expect the person that I'm with to build me up with their love for me. I already got love for myself. And I want you to have love for yourself, so our love together is just gonna bloom. I don't want to feel that I have to slave to try to make you happy, to build your self-esteem up. I would hope you would have that already within yourself to bring to the table so we can make something really well. That way, when you have children, your children are born out of a certain love aspect already, because both of y'all came into that situation with love. So when the one don't have that much for themselves and try to bring a stable person down, I don't really like that. But then I got to question that stable person for trying to get with somebody that ain't got their stuff together.
Thank you, brother. Stop reading my mind. Stop getting these points before I get there.
Why are you either even bothered with this person? I always say people under you, because the people you have around you is a reflection of you.
Right.
If you hang around certain people that act certain ways, that's a reflection of you.
And I think that is a form of insecurity or a need to be in control.
Codependence,
and what I've learned is absolutely right. Like your happiness, you have to find your happiness within yourself. And you know, being a person that went through firsthand, you know, I realized there were certain areas I wasn't happy on, and I did become codependent because that person told me I could depend on them, and I was not initially depending on them in a codependent manner, but when I saw their excellence and I used that as an example of building my own excellence, like, oh, I see my shortcomings, I want to use that, not to copy them, but to figure out my own. I like the way they did that, and I'm going to apply that and see if that worked. Then it was a catch-22 for them. Because now I'm too independent. I'm not being codependent on you because you want to control me. You want to be a puppet master. And when I started to feel that, I became very resistant because I was like, hell nah. I didn't want you in my life to control me. I wanted you to be a part of my life to compliment me.
But that's what they saw in you.
And I saw, right, but it showed me that you saw shortcomings in me to build and reinforce your ego.
Yep.
Not to compliment me and help me build myself as an individual person that can compliment you. And that, to me, made me resentful. But what it also did was kind of go, in certain areas, man, I know I got this. I knew I was right. Why did I second guess myself? Because I was insecure in that area, and I looked externally for that validation when I had that validation in me the whole time. But then I also looked and I said, well, damn. That's some narcissistic sociopath type of shit right there. Because in order to feed your ego, you have to be around people that
are below you.
That you feel below you, or that doesn't have a certain self-esteem. Because we all have shortcomings. But when you use that as a way to oppress another person to build yourself up, that's when it becomes unhealthy. Yes, we are all, and like I've always told you, sis, in my audience, we are all X-Men. We all have our own superpowers that another person does not have or possess and will never possess. And that's why we are here on this earth as a human community to build and add to each other as a whole.
Right.
But it's not, your strength is not supposed to oppress my weakness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Your strength is supposed to complement me, supposed to teach me how to be stronger, or we use each other to build our society and our community as a whole. When we start to manipulate each other and oppress each other and use narcissistic and sociopathic tools to fucking be in control and to feel like we have to dominate, that's something wrong with you. That's not something wrong with me. But at the same time, if I bite on that and I absorb that,
then it's on you.
Then it's on me. I'm using that to deplete myself. You know, but then, let's be honest, we want to love. In our souls of souls and our spirits of spirits, we really are built here to love and grow with each other, not to oppress each other and hate each other. That stuff is learned. I think I really feel like love is innately in our human spirit. And optimism and growth is in our spirit. What's learned is hate and negativity and oppression.
Those are the easy things.
Those are the easy things, but it's survival of the fittest. That goes back to our our animalistic natures. The beauty about us as creatures, we went from animals to humans so that we can continue to evolve and replenish this earth with our ideas and our goodness and feeding Mother Nature the way Mother Nature has fed us in our adolescence. But when we use it in the opposite way, it's like, fuck.
It's self-destructive.
Right, and one of the main forms that we use it in is saying what a male should be doing, what a female should be doing, what is a male, what is a female, what is strength, what is weakness, depending on if you have a penis, if you don't have a penis, you know, if you're gay, if you're straight. And that's why we have all these different forms of identification now. They, their, her, other, because people want to be individual. They just want to be seen for who they are and the strength that they offer to this world in that form.
And that's valid too.
Super valid.
Super valid.
But we want to take that validation away from folks.
But you can't let society put those pressures on you. Once you let society put those pressures on you, you halfway lost already. Who cares what society thinks? They don't live your life.
But you know, our foundation is
I could
also
care
part of
less.
society.
I'm
You know,
part
it
of
all-
society.
it all plays a big role.
I'm part of society, but society don't dictate my day to day.
And what's so funny, Pro, about this whole conversation we're having from the audience is that I've been hearing us speaking, and you start off with categorizations of male to male, male to children, male to female, male to children, because got all mixed up.
Mhm.
But it all goes back to society as a whole.
Yeah.
As much as we want to put it in a box, each one bleeds and manifests itself
Yeah.
into the other.
All products are the same thing.
Right, and so it's like one big ass circle
Yep.
of just you feed one, you teach one, you bleed one, you lead one, you know, you take away, you give, and it all affects male
Right.
to female, female to children, and it's a trip
Yeah.
just to reflect on
If you
that.
teach or learn something from, like I say, a loving place, I think there's nothing wrong with that. But when you are learned or taught stuff from a not so loving place or a hurtful place, those things you learn lessons from those too.
Right,
You know, you learn what not to do.
right.
You learn what
You know
not
what?
to do.
That is, to me, thank you, brother. To me, audience, that is the main teaching from a place of love.
Yep. I'm not trying to hurt.
It is the main form of identification, whether you're male
Yeah, it doesn't
child.
matter. Yep.
or female. Teaching from a place of love means you can be all of those things. Learning from a place of love means you can be all of those things. And we can equally,
Yep.
fairly, not equally all the time, but fairly complement each other
Mhm.
in all of those aspects and
And
categories.
mostly,
Without boxing each other or ourselves in.
yeah. And I was gonna say mostly, children teach adults from love better than adults teach children from love. Because at least kids are honest. Adults BS from the time you 5, they lying to you. There's a Santa, there's an Easter. You know, you hear lies from your parents from the jump. So once you get older and find out, you be like, this bitch was lying the whole time. You know, why she tell me this stuff? That's why I say just be straight
Why
up with
I
the
gotta
kid.
be the mama though? Why I gotta be
Or
the
the
mama?
dad, or the dad, or the dad, or the dad. But I'll be like, with my daughter, I never taught her the whole Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy stuff. She knows about it and where it came from, but she know that stuff ain't true. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to you like my parents lied to me about it.
Right.
You know, like when I was like 13, and my mom, she was like, what you want for Christmas? And I was like over it by then. I'm like, every day's Christmas to me, Mom. You guys just picked a special day to
Right.
call it what it is, but I get beautiful things from you all year long, so every day's Christmas to me. So I really didn't want to celebrate it the way society wanted you to celebrate it. I was a real rebellious kid when I always thought for myself. Everybody always taught us, think for yourself. You don't, just because this person say the sky is this color blue or whatever, don't mean you have to go with it. Go with your own interpretation. But when things are, the only thing you can flip it, spin it any kind of way, the truth, but the truth is the truth. And if you come with that truth, everything should be all right. Now, it's not your fault if the people that you're speaking truth to don't accept it.
Right.
You did your part for giving them the information. If they don't want to accept it, that's on them.
Right.
So,
Right.
but I do think children are a lot better than adults are at giving love from a semi-non-biased, truthful place than adults do. Adults lie so much to kids, so much, and they put their fears into their children. Like, guys don't want certain dudes. I don't know about this kid. I need to know this kid before he dates my daughter. I mean, you know, they got those little barriers, and mothers put all their little hurtful fears into their daughters, and then they butter up their sons to be whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And the guys do what their son, try to tough them up or whatever, because you kind of try to want to prepare them for the things they're gonna have to deal with once they go outside that door. Once they leave your house, there's a world out there. So you gotta carry yourself a certain way. Even if you are that soft, sensitive little boy, that soft, sensitive little boy is gonna still have to learn how to knuckle up one day.
Right.
So
Right.
you gotta give him the. All parents are here to do is give kids certain tools, and they can pick and choose the tools they want to use for when they go out in life. This is how my approach may not be my mom and dad's approach, but I got a perspective too, and I'm gonna use the tools the way I want to use them. But your job as a parent, to me, or as any adult, dropping jewels on a young kid, is to give them tools, and they can use them any way they want. You just give it to them.
Right.
You know.
Amen.
All right.
So, in resolution to our conversation, you guys feel that, I guess, ultimately the key to effective communication with men is to be their authentic selves, respectful, to speak their truth,
Self-validate,
self-validate,
and know yourself. Love thyself first. Don't look for something from somebody else you ain't even got for yourself. So love yourself first, and then when you find someone willing to share that love with you, then you may have a connection there. But as far as communication, be honest without being hurtful.
right?
Be honest without being hurtful.
Right.
And I think once you meet people around the world and you interact, they don't have to be in a relationship with them or anything, but once you interact with people like that, that vibe is set out and it's going to another person. So y'all both are vibing good, and other people around may feel it too, and they may pick up on the vibe. So it starts with one person touching another person, and it spreads that way.
Right.
You worry about what you can control in your section, and if somebody else over there don't got it, at some point they'll get to it sooner or later.
Right.
It's just not your job to throw it on them.
And externally, internally, for males, give yourself permission to listen to your intuition. I noticed that a lot of males tend to do that. But for those that don't, give yourself that. Always seek tools to help build and create your authentic and higher self.
Yep.
And then externally, society needs to change their ideologies and their ways. Get over what identifies a male. Get over what identifies a female as a female child. Get over that shit. Like, men is everything.
Yep.
They're the cooks, they're the cleaners, they're the providers, they're the football players. It's everything. We can be everything that we want to be in the society. And honestly, says I think it should no longer be identified as being male. It should just be identified as being a person. If Troy is Troy. If Troy says I'm a man, then he's a man. If he identifies himself as cooking, cleaning, with his penis, with, him being a heterosexual, that's who he is.
Yeah,
like, I really think we need to start to distort this. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand for medical purposes, we have these identifications, but to let it bleed into our identities and how our society is constructed and how we deal with each other, I think that's just overboard now. We're going too far with it. We need to just let it go.
But there are certain gender things that are true, because I don't think a guy is ever gonna know what it's like to have female parts, and I don't think a female is gonna truly know what it's like for a guy to have guy parts. So each experience is a little bit different.
But I mean, based on scientific stuff, because our society is built on identifying things. We need to put it in a category. We need to put a name to it. We need to put a title to it, because we just need to. Our language is, the way we communicate is through language. So I understand that and I respect that part of it. But to start to say this is how we should live our lives because you have a penis, because you're a male, because you have a certain amount of strength. Yeah, for every 250-pound man that has 500 pounds of strength in his biceps, there's a woman that can still step to you and match you, whether you want to believe it or not, and vice versa. For every woman that could cook her motherfucking ass off and bake everything under the sun, there's a man that can come in and do the same thing. And look, come on.
That same woman can go out and build a shed if she want to.
Absolutely.
You know,
and
if
doesn't
she
even
got
have
that
to be that
talent.
strong and can still
Yeah.
do that. So let's
Yeah.
get out of those minor
Yeah.
surface things.
That's
you know,
right, that's
if we use it for
surface.
scientific purposes, I understand that for procreation
I
and things. I mean, and things like that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But just the way we should live and how we communicate and identify ourselves, nah, I think that's just a waste of time.
Okay.
So treat your kids.
So what you gotta say?
Be honest with your kids and make sure your kids grow up to be mentally developed and knowing who they are. And I think they'll grow up to be better adults. And give them room to make mistakes, because you're not perfect. So why you expect your kid to be perfect? So let your kid make some mistakes and find their way, because they eventually will. You did, hopefully.
Right.
If not,
Right.
good luck, motherfucker.
And with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in to Human Excellence Male Communication. You have joined Top TV, where everything we say, think, and feel comes off the top.
Sure enough.
Please leave your comments, like, and subscribe. And if there's anything more you want us to touch on in detail based off of this segment, please let us know in the comments down below. Peace.
Peace.